In today's video, I've got some satellite TV boxes that I no longer need. They're obsolete, came to me as scrap, and they should make good targets. I have two of them. They're like this one on the floor here. Just a crummy, ordinary electronic target. Well, the setup for this target is the 1-inch ball valve air cannon with the 96-inch 25mm barrel attached to it. The ammunition I'm going to use, I'll show in a moment. It's a shotgun load of 177 steel BBs contained in a cardboard wad cup. I will show that ammo now. Here's a look at a completed round. I've got a base on it to help push it out of the barrel. The tube is cardboard and it's got 4 cuts in it, sort of like a shotgun wad, so that hopefully the wad cup will spread and fly off it, releasing the shot in midair. Here's the second one with its end cap removed. You can see the 177 steel BBs inside it. And I'll now close it with its styrofoam cap. There we go. That's ready to go in the barrel and go at a satellite box. Well, let's have a shot. The first of the two satellite boxes can be seen 10 meters downrange inside the backstop. There's a better view. There's plenty of wood and inch-thick steel plate here as a totally reliable backstop. Well, here the first round has been placed in the chamber. Chamber is closed. Let's pressurize and fire. Well, with the shotgun cartridge loaded, we're almost at 400 psi. Just passing it. I'd like to shoot at 450 at this satellite receiver. 430, we're nearly there. 440, 445, 450 psi, and fire. Looks like a successful shot. From that first shot, here's the recovered wad cup. It looks like it did open and release the shot. And, well, we'll go look at the target, which confirms that this thing apparently did open in flight and release the shot. Here I've picked the target satellite box back up and stood it how it was when I fired at it, just to show the pattern of the BBs that hit it. Now, each individual BB didn't have a great amount of force to it. Only a few of them managed to penetrate the metal top of the satellite receiver. Maybe a couple of them penetrated. The vast majority just chipped the paint and made serious dents. The mass of them, as you can see, dished the whole sheet metal top cover of the receiver in and distorted it. Well, I'm going to get the other receiver. I'm going to fire the other shotgun slug at it. Then I'm going to stack the two and just hit hit them with solid lead slugs, just for fun. Satellite box number 2 has been set up. Just for some variety, we'll shoot at the bottom of it this time instead of the top. Load is, of course, the second steel BB load, about 2 ounces of steel BBs in a cardboard wad cup. Okay, for the second shot at the second receiver, we're just about at 450 psi with the steel BB shot load loaded in the cannon. 450 psi, we're there, and fire. Looks like we hit it again. There's a big mess on the floor. It looks like it came right apart. Let's go see. Well, this receiver came right apart. Now again, I've stood the receiver up in good lighting so we can see it. Again, only a few of the steel 177 BBs penetrated the steel base of this receiver. Most of them made extremely deep dents in the metal, but did not penetrate. You can see where 1 or 2 of them that hit close together went through. The rest made a serious dent. And the group was pretty tight at 10 meters firing distance. This is the cardboard wad cup, as recovered from the second shot that I just fired. I've now switched to the caliber 565 72-inch long barrel with lead slugs to continue firing away at these 2 dead receivers. 565 caliber lead slug against a stack of 2 satellite TV receivers. Firing pressure will be 375 psi, and fire. Well, we can see the hit right there. Caliber 565, 72-inch barrel, firing at 375 psi against the stack of 2 satellite receivers. 375 psi, and fire. Oh, again, we can clearly see the hit. Third and last shot with the 72-inch caliber 565 barrel and lead slugs at the stack of 2 satellite receivers. After this shot, we'll switch to something else to blast them with, maybe the glass marble cannon or something. We'll see. This shot will be going at 425 psi, and I've raised the aim point a tiny bit. We'll see what happens. 425 psi, and fire. Well, that hit just above the previous hole in the middle. Now there's a great big hole through this thing. Well, let's shoot it with something else. That third shot of caliber 565 that I just fired went right through both receivers, and it's actually stuck to the power cord of all things, hanging in midair. That's quite a slug recovery. I've never had that happen before. There's another view of it, stuck to the power cord, just a little in front of the first part of the backstop wood, right through both receivers. Here's an initial shot at one receiver, glass marble, 625 caliber, 72-inch barrel, 300 psi, so we'll be well subsonic here. And fire. This is two receivers, one behind the other, spaced about 6 inches apart. Again, caliber 625, 72-inch barrel, glass marble as a projectile, firing at 325 psi, and fire. Still continuing with the two satellite receivers, I've switched to the CO2 tank 3/4 inch solenoid valve cannon with the caliber 625 72-inch long barrel. Ammunition will still be glass marbles. Target is the satellite receivers, glass marble caliber 625, firing at 425 psi, and fire. Again, caliber 625 glass marble against the satellite receivers, one behind the other, a few inches apart, firing at 425 psi, and fire. Again, a glass marble, caliber 625, going to fire at 450 psi against the two satellite receivers, one behind the other. 450 psi, and fire. Still the caliber 625 barrel, but instead of a glass marble, I've loaded a 400 grain hard alloy cast lead slug. Firing pressure will be 425 psi, 425 psi, and fire. Again, caliber 625 barrel, 400 grain, hard alloy, cast lead slug. Firing pressure will be 450 psi. 450 psi, and fire. Same CO2 tank solenoid valve cannon, but now I've switched to the caliber 812 barrel, loaded with an 1100 grain hard alloy cast lead slug. Firing pressure is 450 psi, and fire. Again, caliber 812 barrel, 1100 grain hard alloy cast lead slug. Be firing this time at 425 psi, and I've reversed the order of the two satellite receivers, so the less damaged one is now in front and shooting through the bottom of it rather than the top. 425 psi, and fire. It took out everything, including the wood backstop. Same cannon, CO2 tank cannon, but I've switched to the caliber 565 72-inch barrel, loaded with a machined aluminum slug weighing 150 grains. Firing pressure will be 450 psi for this shot. 450 psi, and fire. Excuse the noise of the shot compressor. Caliber 565 72-inch barrel, loaded with a 550 grain hard alloy cast lead slug, firing at 450 psi. 450 psi, and fire. Again, caliber 565 72-inch barrel, this time loaded with a 350 grain hard alloy cast lead slug. 400 psi, and fire. Again, caliber 5.65, 72-inch barrel, loaded with the 375 grain hard alloy cast lead slug. This one will be fired at 350 psi, and I've laid the receivers flat, one on top of the other, and I'll be attempting to hit through the side. 350 psi, and fire. I think I hit it. Again, the caliber 5.65 barrel, this time loaded with a hard alloy cast lead caliber 5.65 slug, hollow base type, only weighs 200 grains. I'm going to fire it at 375 psi with the receivers stacked one on top of the other. 375 psi, and fire. I missed. Shot over the top of it. Well, we'll try again. Same shot as before, hollow base, hard cast alloy, caliber 5.65 slug. Firing this time at 400 psi. Hopefully I won't miss. 400 psi, and fire. .25mm barrel now on the CO2 tank cannon, loaded with a machined aluminum slug. Firing will be at 350 psi. Wonder what I'll hit. 350 psi, and fire. Hit something. Well, let's try and shoot this thing. It's a 25mm hollow aluminum projectile. Okay, I've loaded the 25mm hollow aluminum projectile into the 25mm barrel. Firing will be at 425 psi, and fire. And I missed completely. Oh well. This time the 25mm barrel is loaded with a 2800 grain hard alloy solid cast lead slug. Firing will be at 400 psi. 400 psi, and fire. Wow, that hit him. Well, here I have a great big 25mm fin dart that weighs 1825 grains. So, I've stood the two receivers back up again, one in front of the other, and we'll try the dart. Okay, the aluminum and fiberglass dart I just showed has been loaded into the 60-inch long 25mm barrel. Firing of this dart will be at 400 psi. The receivers are standing up, one behind the other. 400 psi, and fire. Well, that made a mess.